Welcome to AM Stories, story number 1. And I'm at Lake Carrollwood in Tampa, Florida right now, and I got my fishing hat on because this story kind of has a two-part to it, but it's about cartoon catch. It's about fishing. So let's get to it. So the first part of this story starts off in East Texas. A friend of mine had a timeshare condo on a lake out in East Texas, and he asked me to come along to go fishing with him. So I went fishing with him, and his name was Joe Martinez, and he is a character. He likes to tell jokes, and he's a really entertaining person. So we go fishing, we're bank fishing, we're just fishing from the bank, and we're casting out, and he brings in a small fish, not very big. So I'm just kind of glancing at him off to the side and see that he's caught that small fish, expecting him to unhook it and toss it back because it's too tiny to keep. And next thing you know, I'm looking out into the water and I see a relatively decent sized splash. And I was like, well, that's odd. So I turned and looked to the side, and there is Joe. He hasn't unhooked that fish. He just took that fish with the hook still in the fish's mouth and tossed the fish and the hook back into the water. And I looked over and I was like, Joe, this isn't the cartoons. What are you doing? And he got a big grin on his face and he just said, I'm going to catch a bigger fish. I thought that was kind of ridiculous, but I didn't say anything. I was busy serious fishing. And next thing I know, his rod's bent over and he catches a decent sized bass. He caught a bass with the hook still in the other fish. So the hook didn't catch the bass. The fact that the bass came up and ate that small fish, that's what caught the bass. And I thought, how many times do you get to see that? How many times you get to see a cartoon catch, like fishing on a cartoon, and see something like that? Well, I got to see it because I was standing right next to him. So that leads us to the second part of the story. I'm right now sitting at Lake Carrollwood in the Carrollwood subdivision, and it's a private lake for the people who live in this subdivision. And it has a small fish that I call brim or bluegill, and they're fun to catch. So I brought what is known as light tackle. You have to understand in fishing, there's 3 basic forms of the rod thickness and the rod stiffness. There's light, medium, and heavy, and there's variations all between of those 3. There's also micro, so that it's super lightweight, but there's all kinds of variation, but those are the 3 basic. So I grabbed my lightweight gear and had on there what some people call a float or a bobber, and then a length of line underneath it. And I don't know if you can see it, but at the very bottom of that bobber, I put a tiny little hook. And that's the hook I was fishing with because I'm fishing for tiny fish, small fish, and they fight very well. Pound for pound, I think it's some of the best fighting fish there are. But I was out casting and I found a spot. I found a hole that if I could just get my line out to immediately, once that little piece of red worm started sinking down, I would get a hit. And I was catching these bluegill or brim and bringing them in and having a good time. Well, one of the casts that I threw out, I caught a fairly decent size, what I thought was a fairly decent size bluegill or brim, and I'm bringing it in, and then the next thing you know, big swirl behind it, and all of a sudden the brim gets hit. Largemouth bass. Well, I got super excited about it, and nothing happened other than the bass came up and hit that bluegill. So I continually reel in, but I'm going a little slower this time because sometimes a bass will come up and hit something to stun it so that it can come back again and try to devour it. So I was reeling really, really slow, and all of a sudden that happened. That bass came up behind there and hit that bluegill and completely swallowed it. So now I have this tackle that's made for a tiny little fish, and I've got a bigger fish. I have a cartoon catch that just happened to me. So I'm fighting this thing on this tackle that I shouldn't be fighting it with, just trying to bring it in. So I'm bringing this fish in, but I'm up on a dock. I'm up on a platform that has picnic tables on it. So with this tackle, with this fishing rod, I can't literally lift this big fish out of the water. So I have to pass it around the pylons and drag it over to the side to where the beach is. And once I got to the beach, I pulled that big largemouth bass up, and I was so proud. Just so happens that while that was going on, there was a state trooper in the parking lot who kind of surveys the area and the neighborhood every once in a while, and he got to see it. That's one thing that fishermen love, is that when they catch that big fish, they love somebody to see that they did it. And I actually caught this thing and landed it, and he came over, he saw it from his car, and he came over and he said, "That's amazing. I can't believe you got that." And I go, I not only got it, I got it on a cartoon catch, and then explained to him what had just happened. I hope this doesn't throw him under the bus for his friends, but he looked at that fish, he said, "Man," he said, that's a big bass. He said, "Would you mind taking a picture of me with that bass, and I'm going to tell my friends I caught it?" And I was like, "Hey, you can tell them whatever you like. I'll go ahead and take the picture." So I took the picture, and he was really happy. He handed me my fish back, and I was taking it home because it was about to become my wife's lunch. So I hope you enjoyed this story. It happened to me. I got what I call a cartoon catch. I caught a fish with a fish, and so the hook didn't really catch the bass. It was just the fact that he swallowed the smaller fish. Now, if you're a serious fisherman, this may happen to you all the time. This may be a common occurrence, but for me, not so much. Got to see it once and had it happen to me once. So that's my cartoon catch story. Well, thank you for watching this video, and if you wouldn't mind, leave some comments in the comment section. I'll try to get back to you. Story number 1, and I'm going to have a bunch of different stories. Some of them are going to be serious, some of them are going to be funny. So keep in touch. I'll try to get more of them out there, and I hope you have a great day.